Howdy, howdy. We are live on a Friday morning at a unusual time for us. We normally stream in the evenings, but we have things to do today. It's a big day. We got a new episode of Star Trek Con to talk about. Dave is here, and it's also his birthday, y'all. So everyone, if you are feeling kind, please feel free to say happy birthday to Dave. And
I already
without
see people doing it in the comments. They're very kind. I love our listeners.
yeah, well, they love you, Dave.
All right, let's
So.
not get carried away.
But let's get started on talking about this because I know Dave and Taylor both have a lot to say about this latest Star Trek con.
And we haven't talked off air or anything. It'll be interesting.
Even Taylor and I haven't chatted much, and
Oh.
we live together. We still haven't talked about this much, so we're saving it for the show.
Hell yeah.
I'm Fathery,
This is Dave.
I'm Miss Taylor.
and this is Tex-Trek.
Engage.
Welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 349th installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we take a deep look at Star Trek, old and new. And I normally say tonight, and tonight we're talking about we're recording this one live in the morning, but that doesn't matter. This morning we're talking about Star Trek Con Episode 3, Do Your Worst, written by Kirsten Beyer and David Mack, story by Nicholas Meyer, directed by Fred Greenhalgh. So our third piece of this audio drama we've gotten from Paramount Plus. I'm really looking forward to diving into that in just a moment. Just a bit of a quick housekeeping per usual. I need to give a big thank you and shout out to the wonderful people in the Tex-Trek Patreon. Thank you so much, Starfleet Sohel, Cake is Eternal, Crazy Dutchy, Joanne Robertson, John Daw, Geek Filter, Quarkspar, Matthew Averett, Braxton, Chuck A, Joel Vallis, Arthur Lamoureux, our associate producer Chris Garris, Dave Farabee, Dave A. Gregory, Joe Saporito, Wanda Valentine, Ren, and our anonymous supporters. And the weekly show going, y'all keep the Starship Texas flying. So thank you for that. And if just want to remind people, if out there, if you can't support us monthly with something like Patreon, you can always support us on YouTube with the super chat feature. And just today being Dave's birthday, anyone in the live audience today, if we do receive any super chats, that'll go to the Dave birthday fund. We'll take them out to eat or something soon. So
These are sweet
but
people.
Well, Dave, we appreciate you being here. Taylor and I aren't going to do anything embarrassing like sing happy birthday to you. Uh,
Thanks.
ins-
I'd have to go curmudgeonly Kirk in Wrath of Khan mode.
instead, we're going to sing the He's a Jolly Good Fellow song because that's what they sing in Deep
What?
Space Nine on O'Brien's
What?
birthday.
What?
It's a Star Trek tradition. So,
All right.
are you ready, Taylor? People watching or listening at home, sing along if you know the words. Are you ready, Taylor?
Yeah, we didn't
All right.
practice, so bear with us.
Okay, here we go.
For
For
he's
he's a
a
jolly good fellow, for
for
he's a
he's
jolly
a
good
jolly good fellow.
fellow,
For
for
he's a
he's a
jolly
jolly
good
good
fellow.
fellow, which nobody can deny.
We did terrible, but it was with
Okay.
love.
Thank you. I love it. I love it. I know it's much appreciated. A true Trek. Good morning and happy birthday to me. I appreciate it.
Well, yeah, I don't have much in the way of news, so we can go ahead and get started about talking about some Star Trek Con. But episode three, "Do Your Worst," very kind of ominous, mean title for a story that has
Hmm.
some dark events in it. Before we go into this, I'm just gonna recap it per usual by reading the official synopsis, and then I'll kind of expand on that with spoilers. But the synopsis reads: Khan's nascent colony celebrates its first pregnancy, but they've also suffered several losses to their number, while a new threat to the entire planet reveals itself. And yes, this threat, as it turns out, if you've seen The Wrath of Khan, you know exactly what it is. The dreaded Ceti Eels. We know that they will wipe out several of Khan's people, and will unfortunately be the only indigenous life form to survive the coming disaster after Ceti
Yeah.
Alpha 6 explodes.
The roaches of their world.
Yeah, very much. The only thing that's going to survive the Holocaust event. So, but yeah, we lose poor Richter, and Khan takes an oath of vengeance against the planet itself, and also some other interpersonal drama in the settlement between Marla McGivers and Ivan and Ursula and Paulo and some other developments there. So, but Taylor, before we get into our episode breakdown, let's just each do our opening statements and say our broad thoughts. Do you want to give the first opening statement and just let us know your general takeaway on episode three? Do your worst.
Yeah, I feel like this episode flew by. And I was shocked by the Sylvana and Richter deaths. I wasn't expecting to lose both of them so soon after just meeting them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I really liked the scene with Marla and Joachim. I thought that was really sweet. But yeah, I really like where the story is going, and I like getting a lot more meat to it. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I think this is really good too, to see like Khan suffering and stuff. And even though he's like suffering, he's still like, I am Khan. Like he's like, you can't do this to me. Like, how dare you? And I think it's such a accurate character trait, like personality trait, that he just keeps going in and just is just angry with anything without, I don't know, like reevaluating maybe his own options and like things that he can do to like help control the situation. Instead, he's just like, I'm going to seek vengeance on the planet. kind of, it's kind of egotistical and really wonderful at the same time. So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. For me, I thought the coolest part of this episode, I guess, was like the reveal of also kind of what I think is going to be a theme in this entire audio drama. But it's kind of a theme of how much do you value the truth, and like having like almost like a historical documentation of like the actual facts and just the cold hard facts versus the like comfort, just telling yourself the more comforting version of the story. We kind of hinted at some of that stuff in the previous episodes. I think Dave commented on it last week about oh well, Khan has this gift for the auditory. He's this talented speaker, but is he really just like bending the story to match his whatever is going to forward his agenda? And maybe he's not the most reliable of narrators. Maybe he's not like the most reliable source. But I think that's a very topical thing to explore in this era of postmodernism, where a lot of people, unfortunately, like a lot of people in power, are just kind of they just kind of say screw it to reality, and they just will just say the most insane, easily to disprove batshit crazy stuff, but it's just like well, they just believe whatever version of reality they choose to believe, and you can see Khan kind of lean in that direction, and some of the things in here, like the opening, he talks about telling the children stories and telling Joachim something that would, comfort him about like the death of his father, and when the Ceti Eel stuff started with Richter, and we see that with like Marla talking to Joachim as well about like, well, believe what you want to believe about your dead parents, like why does it matter? It's up to you, and so it's interesting. So I think that is that's kind of revealed itself as kind of a major theme in this, I think, or at least that's what I'm getting out of it. But Dave, what about you? What's your broad thoughts on episode 3?
Having really imprinted on Wrath of Khan as a kid, there was a morbid part of my head that always kind of wondered, how did Khan and the other survivors find out that the Ceti Eels rendered their host extremely susceptible to suggestion? And now we know the grim answer to it. And it's pretty hardcore. We also know that, Ivan, who was kind of likably roughhousing and tough guy in the first episode, is turning out to be a pretty awful person. That's definitely going to become a problem for Marla or Ursula first, maybe. So just on like plot levels, I'm intrigued by it. It continues to draw me in with that stuff. But mostly, I think this was an episode where this was the episode where Khan, with all his ego that Taylor was talking about, he faces Ceti Alpha V, which he personifies as a living foe, and he loses. So, but what I thought was interesting, and this is really showing the depth of the show, of this audio drama. Unlike the movie, where when he loses something, it's almost always just met with an anger. Here he does balance that anger with their real shock, and real sadness. You can tell he's just breaking at the end when he's got to essentially euthanize Richter. And then there's also the loss of Joachim's father and how he deals with that, which you were talking about, fathering. And, we continue to see just like, how is Khan going to break with the added, the reason why I find the story compelling, even though to some degree we know where all the pieces land in this, is that, well, I think we're going to find out we maybe don't know where all the pieces land. And also they've invested me in all these characters at this point. And I'm hoping that, if they have to die, that they, die in a less horrible way than the others, that some of them maybe some of them can survive. There could be some reveal about that. I don't know. But it's got me intrigued and drawn into their story, even knowing the final fate. And then we have like Ceti Alpha 6 kind of looming over all like its instability. So that's, I felt like a lot happened in this episode, like in just, 30 minutes or so. I felt like I got a lot out of it. Another winner as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and just to remind people, this is going to be 9 episodes total. So we're we're a third of the way into it. So we're through like the first act, if you want to think of it as like a 3-act structure. We're out of the beginning and going into the middle next week. But yeah, it's so far it's got a solid AF foundation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ending with Khan both kind of in some ways broken, but obviously like just in like total fight mode now too, is that feels like a good ending to a first act for him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's get into our episode breakdown. We'll run through this whole episode beat by beat and kind of expand on our thoughts on each scene. We open with more Dr. Lear. They didn't do the flash forward framing device thing at all in episode 2, so I kind of missed Tuvok. It's like I like the Excelsior. I want to know what Sulu and Tuvok are up to. So we get a little Dr. Lear here. She is listening to a recording of Khan. It sounds like like a decade into the exile. I think she says it's like day over 4,000 something, but it must be at some point after Marla McGivers. We know she's going to die. We know that from the Wrath of Khan. But Khan is saying, "Good evening, my beloved," on the recording. So it's almost like he's like talking to his dead wife after she's died, and this is just how he does journaling every day. But he's talking about like taking care of the children. So I'm assuming we're going to get to a point because everyone in the Wrath of Khan, all of his followers look young, that eventually the adults are going to get wiped out, and it's just going to be Khan and the kids, and Khan telling them stories at the end of the day to I guess to entertain them, to help them, to comfort them so they can sleep. And yeah, he's talking like I was mentioning in my opening statement. He's talking about like lying basically to Joachim about his father's death and the story of Richter and Lear is also complaining to Ensign Tuvok about why is there rain noise in space? Why does Captain Sulu want to have the shields down so we get the sound of these micrometeor shower impacts? So, what do y'all think of that stuff?
I did the math. I think she says it's somewhere over day 6,000, and I just did a real quick divide by 365, and that put it at about 16 years after their arrival. So those kids have to be kind of grown up, I think. Somebody can confirm that, but that's what I got out of it. And Khan actually mentions something like, I think he says he kind of like still thinks of them as the children they were because he can't bear to accept what they've become, which is, I assume, these kind of like maybe feral survivors. He doesn't say exactly what. It's just obviously everything's gone to hell. But I think they're fully 16 years into it.
Yeah, I also was thinking maybe he's a little disappointed that maybe they're more hopeless now and feeling like run down instead of like having this like hopeful, thriving community that he originally intended. And maybe that's part of like why he's, saying those things about the kids.
There's no doubt he's still got this sentimentality going on there. There's something to it. Although it's interesting, he says, we're telling a story, beloved. You taught us so well or something, and about the importance of history. But it's interesting, he says that, and then he confesses that he lied during his story.
Yeah.
Because he bent like the lesson of Marla to match what he wants it to be.
Yeah.
So it's weird how like it's a kind of an interesting example of how a dishonest person can even like lie to themselves and like give themselves like this justification or this motivation that like they probably are going to take very seriously, but not even realize, well, I kind of like twisted that even just so I could get like the mission statement I wanted out of it.
Yeah, well, and earlier in the episode, when we flash back to it earlier chronologically anyway, for the characters, we do see Marla, not telling lies to Joachim, but pushing him to accept whatever truth makes him most likely to kind of survive his father's death and find some comfort. So. And it's completely understandable. It's not like it doesn't feel like a betrayal of the truth as so much as it feels like, God, we've got to be like human to each other. We've got to try and protect each other. And Khan, I think, is fighting. He's a hardcore protector type. I didn't expect that degree of sophistication from this. That's one of the reasons why the show has continued to impress. Although. We'll talk about it more as it goes along. But if I had a criticism, I am a little worried that they might be sympathizing Khan too much. That he's very protective in this, and he's actually quite empathetic. He's not like when Richter is injured. He's not like pick up the pace, boy, and all this stuff. He's like, I think of you like a son, and he's very caring.
Then one of the things I noticed in here is when he talks about how he misses the rain. It's kind of weird because Dr. Lear, as she's listening to this, she's mad about like the sound of rain on the Excelsior, is like the micrometeors are bothering her. But at the same time, Khan is like living on the Ceti Alpha V we see in the Wrath of Khan, and he's talking about how there has been no rain, and saying when they first arrived though, and he cherished seeing like the rain on the fields that they recently planted, and how he seeing like the kids trying to catch raindrops on their tongue or whatever, but like he kind of felt like, oh, here's a chance to start over. I can get a new life on Ceti Alpha V, and he even says that at that time he wished the rain would wash away his sins, or something like that. He's very very poetic about it, but it just shows that, oh, when he arrived on Ceti Alpha V, he actually did see the planet as an opportunity to redeem himself. He does have like some guilt about his past. Even he's made it clear he doesn't really like to be self-reflective. He doesn't like to think of the past. He thinks of the future, but he did still have like some guilt he was carrying, and he saw this planet as kind of salvation initially. So a total different perspective on things than what we'll see at the end of this episode.
In the audience, Joel said, I think they're front-loading sympathy and will crush it by the end. I think there's a solid chance that is the case, too. It's kind of smart storytelling to really, to somewhat emphasize a sympathetic approach to the characters early on, and, let it descend. If somebody's going to lose it, have that be a big fall. But I'm sure we're going to talk about it throughout this. Khan's relative. How much is this cozying up to a dictator? But I did by the way, love that thing about Sulu, taking comfort in the rain. Everybody loves a nice rainstorm, and I would imagine, like how every one of the captains, we know that. Captain Pike cooks for his crew, and Picard was a little bit aloof, but probably came to life a little bit on those holodeck outings. And here, Sulu, one of the ways that he kind of is more, human with his crew is things like that. He's, calling back to, being on land, a little throwback to a love of a planet with an atmosphere and rain and all of that stuff. Which I think that'd be cool. I'm ready to serve on the Excelsior.
Yeah, I liked that too because it really grounded the Captain Sulu as like appreciating Earth and wanting his crew to like not go insane in space. Kind of like, I don't know. I think it was in Interstellar where one of the crewmates was having a lot of anxiety about being in space, and one of the crewmates gave them like an iPod of like nature sounds, and they're like, here, let's like listen to this for a little bit and you'll feel better. And I never thought about like how quiet space would be until that movie. So I thought that was really a cool thing that Captain Sulu was like using like space meteor shower to like mimic a sound that we would all be familiar with as rain. So yeah, I thought that was a fun touch.
Yeah, whichever writer came up with that one, great job.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to, in this audio drama, to get so much like little science sounds or not science sounds, but I don't know, like things you would see in an episode, or like I feel like you could really easily visualize like the Excelsior getting pounded by these little rocks. Like in this, like the sound effects were good, but also like the way they talk it is good. It was very like easy to visualize.
The sound effects have been really cool. I love hearing some of the old school, Trek laboratory type sound effects that we hear later on, or even just a door doing its little shush open and stuff. Father, I think you mentioned that notably in the first episode too, or first two episodes when we talked about them, that the soundscape, is how immersive it is. I actually, or was that you, Taylor? Gosh, and I can't remember. Maybe both of you.
I'm not sure. I think we lost Taylor to some micrometeorite interference, but she'll be beaming back in. So
yeah, she is there.
Sorry,
but is it her or is it a duplicate?
Did you get body snatched?
We have to watch for the telltale signs that it's evil Taylor, split apart from good Taylor. Yeah. Technical difficulties.
I was changing your mic settings. That might have triggered something, but let's move on. So we kind of cut back and forth between Khan and Richter making their journey back to camp, and then things going on with like Marla and Ursula and Ivan at the camp. So let's just talk about like Khan and Richter's journey back, and then we'll switch over and talk about the things going over at the camp. Before we do that, just want to say thank you to Joel in the live audience for the $9.47 super chat. Nice. He says, "Happy birthday, Dave. Watch out for pigs and cubes."
Boars and Ceti boars and Ceti eels
Oh, okay.
is my interpretation on that. Unless he's worried about me getting tapeworm, which also appreciated. But thank you very much, Joel. I love it.
Thank you. But yeah, let's talk about the Khan and Richter making their journey back. Khan finds Richter. Sylvana came running back after her and Richter snuck off in the woods in the last episode, and so she had a Ceti eel crawling up her leg. Horrifying to anyone who's seen the Wrath of Khan. So Khan finds Richter, and by the time he finds him, there's already a bug in his ear. It's not like he's kind of like punching himself in the head, trying to get like the worm to come out the other side.
Yeah, it's there's kind of I think sort of a rule or an unspoken rule in drama that it's kind of risky if the audience knows more than the characters. Like, we know how Ceti eels work, and arguably it's a little torturous to have to wait for Khan and the crew to figure out what's going on in this episode. But I think this is one of those cases where they used it to their advantage. It creates a tension with the audience where it's that much more kind of horrific to kind of have them. He's saying something's inside him, and Khan, I think he has like an infection. He got stung, or he picked up some virus or something. He has no idea there is a physical creature in his head. And so, yeah, like hearing him hit his head, and he's like, "I can't get it out." I'm like, oh my God, it's so terrible. It's so terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And Khan is also like, he is being kind of a good, like, supportive, authority figure for this kid, trying to like coach him through it. Richter was the artist when he's telling him, draw a picture of whatever it is that you feel is screaming in your mind, and, imagine yourself, blowing it away, or, doing something to try to like empower him to give him some power over this thing that is like torturing him.
Yeah. That was Khan at his most sort of, humane and paternal in like the best ways. Is it there someplace he says, yeah, like Richter's at some point said like, "I'm just an artist," and he's like, "Oh, I think of you as like a son." It's a very sympathetic portrayal of Khan there.
And he also like kills a snake in front of him, so they get like some encounter with a giant snake. But that's what sends Richter, I guess, like running up the trees, and then when Khan is like, "Richter, come down from there," and he just just jumps off of the tree.
Yeah, Ceti eel in his brain made him dulled his senses, and he just did it. That was messed up. I thought he was just gonna freaking die right there, just like break his neck. But there's lots more tragedy left for him to have, so you got to keep him alive.
Yeah, he's like, then Khan like tells him to like stand up, and like he's like trying to like stand up and like walk on on a broken ankle, and then Khan's like, "Oh no, wait, your ankle's broke. Stop."
Yeah,
I think they made a point that we can hear like a little bit of crunch of it.
Yeah, it's hard to hear. It was really interesting, like the critical thinking and was just gone, and then him literally just taking things literally. Sorry, I said literally taking things literally, but that was the turning point for me in the episode when Richter says like, or I guess Khan says, "Richter, get out of that tree right now," and Richter's like, "Yes, Khan," and you could hear in his voice kind of like this like regret of like, I'm gonna get really hurt before he like falls out of the tree,
like a certain resignation.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. He was like, "Man, this is gonna suck for me," but he does it anyway because he's obeying orders. But this is like also when Khan starts screaming at him to like fight for his life, like don't let this like take over, and he's like,
he doesn't want this
planet
and
to fight.
Yeah, he's like, "You better fight for your life, son. I don't want this planet to take another one of my followers from me." So
but it comes up later. Like
it's so terrible. It's so terrible in a good way. It's good drama.
Yeah, but he's like planted this seed of like, fight to live, and
Right.
that comes up later. But
Yeah, I
man,
guess we see when a Ceti eel is in there, nuances may be lost on you, and you might kind of also take things rather literally. You're clearly in a
yeah,
kind of hazy, feverish state.
yeah,
And to be fair, it is kind like, as much as I love the Wrath of Khan, and I think, like, it's not my favorite Star Trek movie. I'm a weirdo who likes The Search for Spock the most, but I do think the Wrath of Khan is just like the best made movie. Just like the creative choices that went into that are just like so perfect, and just like so much strong craft went into creating a masterpiece. At the risk of sounding hyperbolic, but the idea of like, oh yeah, then Khan was able to take over these two Starfleet officers because he has these, convenient bugs that he can put in their ears, and it makes them do what he commands. It is kind of a silly sci-fi contrivance that works in that movie because of the masterful execution of
You know what I
everything.
think was clever about how Nicholas Meyer did that? It's like so horrific to see that sequence with Chekhov and Terrell getting infected by them that you kind of accept the reality that these things do what they say, because
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of like cannot get the sort of horror side of it out. Like I think that overwhelms the part of you that would be saying, "Well, that's convenient," you know.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, it's really well done. But, it was almost something that, like, well, is it going to seem like kind of silly and corny if they expand on it? But so far so good. I like the reveals of it we're getting here, and they are still leaning into that horror side of it. It is pretty terrifying.
Hmm.
If it's not scaring you, it's at least grossing you out.
Yeah, I was going to say they pull no punches, and that's quite literal in the case of Richter at the end.
Well, but yeah, like, Khan is running back to camp with Richter on his back for 2 days straight, like that. We'll find out. Let's talk about what's going on at the settlement before Khan and Richter return. We have a scene in Med Bay where they reveal that Mado is 3 weeks pregnant. So they seem to have successfully implanted one of the augment embryos. Um, and
Yeah,
also,
why aren't they nicer to Marla though? They got their big thing, and I think she must have been instrumental, right?
well, no, they made it sound like in episode 2 that Ursula had, with the medical technology they have from the Enterprise, that she was
Mm.
going to be able to successfully implant one of the embryos in Mado. So
I guess it was more like Marla was just telling them about the technology. She wasn't facilitating it
yeah,
personally.
she
yeah.
was demonstrating how to compound medicines with the Starfleet synthesizer. It sounded like.
But
Would have been
also
nice
these
if they.
people. Oh,
Uh-huh.
sorry.
Oh, I was
These
just gonna say it would
people.
have been nice if they were a little more thankful to her for
Yeah.
facilitating that. But what were you saying?
Sorry, the people at camp don't know that Khan and Marla made up, you know? Like, they still are under the
Mm.
impression that Khan and Marla had that big fight and then they went on that trip together. But I think, they didn't come back together. Like, Khan is
Right,
still out
right.
doing whatever and Marla comes back. But I think maybe Ursula and Meadow are still under the impression that maybe Khan and Marla aren't together anymore. So she's, like, not under his protection right now still.
Right.
Um,
That
that was
makes
kind of
sense,
my
actually.
impression, is that maybe not everybody knows that there was like a makeup like on this
They are a
time
very
machine.
tight knit group, and yeah, I guess I need to rewatch Space Seed. Does it amount to this that Marla initially kind of helps Khan, but she freed Kirk at some point so that Kirk could, because she didn't want Kirk to get killed or something like
Yes,
that?
yeah. Khan was going to. He wanted the Enterprise crew to defect to his leadership, and he was going to start killing them one by one if they wouldn't surrender the ship to him and follow his commands. And that was like a bridge too far for her, and so she sets Kirk free, and Kirk takes the ship back.
So I guess they're pretty much always going to hold that on her, like, oh, we could have had the ship, but for her, we wouldn't be on this planet, but for her.
Well, and the juvenile delinquent Paulo, the kid who got in a fight previously with Joachim for only being half augment, for not being augment enough. But Paulo apparently is just like raiding her little cargo pod apartment. He stole that coil from her to increase the range of his scanner.
Yeah, he's like a techie kind of guy and having some success. Although I don't think he's going to love what he learns from
Yeah.
that.
Um, And that's what's going on when Ivan returns with dead Joaquin on his back. Because remember in the last episode when Khan tells Ivan, like take Joaquin's body back to camp, and he's like, I will carry it with honor, or, something like that. But uh, so they get like half of the, or I guess not half, but all of the hunting party, scouting party, whatever, survey team, except for Khan and Richter. Um, and there's that conversation between Ursula, Mado, and Ivan where they talk about McGivers, and Ivan he calls her like Khan's pet bitch, and he's like
Yeah,
he
that's
really
messed up.
doesn't. It's almost like he's jealous. Like it's like, is Ivan in love with Khan? Like he has so much reverence for him. Like it kind of
Kind
comes
of,
off that way.
kind of,
Everyone
yeah.
is in love with Khan to be in this cult, you know? That's
Yeah.
the way that it has to be.
I mean, it
You know
doesn't
how
have to be like a romantic love, but you can
No.
easily see that as a
Yeah.
possibility in his behavior here.
you know how we might have seen in our real lives in America in the last since 2016 some cult-like behavior on display, and how the underlings of the cult leader really vie for his attention and in like creepy ways and try and knock each other down. That is definitely a cult phenomenon.
Yeah, everyone wants to be a good boy or a good girl for daddy.
Yep, yep. It is not what you'd call I think a healthy structure, but it's like, what? It's satisfying when we watch it as a drama. Like it feels like there is some part of us, some primal thing where we're like having a strong leader and people who are loyal to him. We're like, it's kind of I think what we like in samurai movies and things like that too. And we're like, oh yeah, this is pretty cool. How cool he must be to command that. And think they kind of lure you in with that, and then they hit you with like kind of how dangerous it is. Like Ivan is going, he's already kind of going in episode 1, I guess, sort of went off the reservation and killed somebody that he thought Khan, was a foe to him, even though Khan didn't want it. So he was willing to take that into his own hands, disobey in the letter of what his leader told him because he wanted to protect him. And now, yeah, here we see him clearly talking kind of threateningly about Marla. So he's getting scary in this episode.
Another real life parallel to like say like the MAGA cult or like the Trump movement, but there's this concern from Ursula about like if Khan does not come back, then we're in trouble because he's the only thing holding all of us together. Like Ivan can't take over. He's not the leader. And that's kind of like the same thing. Like I feel like that's like the right-wing MAGA coalition in the United States right now. Like they're held together by this one crazy figurehead, and then like
Yeah,
without
it's a
him,
desperation because
yeah.
they know that there's nobody who can quite command the cult the way he does. Am I correct? I don't know remember if it was in this scene or not. But by the way, I have warmed to Ursula's mean girl thing. She will just drop the truth as she sees it in any given situation, and she even about Khan too. She when they say I think Mado says that Khan never seems to know when he's lost. That she remembers some incident in Baghdad. She said, outnumbered, outgunned. He never seems to know when he's lost. And then Ursula says, that's because the minute something doesn't go his way, he changes the plan. All things remain possible in the liminal space between losing and admitting defeat.
Yeah.
And by the way, great writing there. Love the wordsmithing on that. But I also appreciate that Ursula, while a pretty like kind of horribly judgmental person at times. Again, dramatically, she's fun to listen to. She will always say what her truth is.
I think it's also interesting that she's criticizing Khan, but in like a positive spin. Like, like she's like, this is something we know that he does, but
Right.
like
It's almost like that's kind of like his strength. Like he can between losing and admitting defeat, he can find something.
yeah.
And it's more of, what I was talking about like, do you value the cold hard facts of reality, or do you value the comforting thing you want to tell yourself? And which is when the survey team partially returns. That's also when we get the Marla and Joachim conversation where she's talking about like, oh, do augments from the eugenic war believe in an afterlife? Are there any god or gods that your people believe in? Like she doesn't know what to tell this kid.
I really like this conversation. It wasn't one I
Yeah.
expected to see in this or hear. I just I like that she's like, well, do you believe in a god? And he's like, well, we believe in Khan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, more that cult like mentality.
Yeah, but she gives like what seems like some pretty good advice. She's like, grief isn't a thing that you conquer; it's something you have to learn to live with.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and of course, you feel sorry for like the teenage orphan. Now both of his parents are gone. Like that's a sad thing to bear witness to.
Yeah, that scene, the part where he like asks her, doesn't he say something like, "Do you think he's with my mom now?" I'm
Yeah,
like, oh my god, my kind of heart went out to him because you realize that although they've seen a lot, right? They've been through presumably Khan's war and some of at least seen some of his dictatorship on Earth. They woke up on the Enterprise. They tried to take it over. Now they're trying to tame this world. So he's seen a lot as young as he is. And yet he's like, do you think my mom's with my dad after they died? And like, God, he's like a little kid still in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
And we get another conversation between Paulo and Ursula about like Paulo is now able to detect some unusual behavior from Ceti Alpha V. So it's like, oh, this planet looks unstable. They were watching the meteor shower over the campfire in episode 2. So it's like, oh, that's why we're getting so many meteors. This neighboring planet is falling apart, but it'll take it millions of years before anything big happens. So.
Seems like a reasonable observation. Most stuff,
Yeah.
the idea of like things occurring on such, astronomical, sort of or geologic time scales. Yeah, generally speaking, you're not going to happen to be around whatever the catastrophic event happens. And I wonder, are they going to suggest there's any particular reason why they brought it up. So it's kind of weird to say, oh, I guess I was wrong. We did happen to be around when it went to shit.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be explained why exactly it happens, but we know from Wrath of Khan that 6 months after their arrival, Ceti Alpha 6 will blow up, and we're like a month and a half. We're like day 40 something
Right.
at this point. So it's it's tick-tock, it's coming. But I don't know if they're establishing that like, oh, they're scanning this planet. I don't know if that's just to explain like how they knew what happened. Khan is able to explain it to Chekhov and Tyrell and Wrath of Khan. It's like 6 months after we were left here, Ceti Alpha 6 exploded. That's like when he like blows up when he's like talking to him and he's
yeah.
But
Ricardo Montalban was I think a born storyteller in a way. He had that. It was like a Shakespearean kind of like evil soliloquy.
So they're at least letting us know like how they knew what happened. It's because like, oh, Paulo enhanced the scanner.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of the key thing there. You do sort of wonder, this kind of brings up something. I feel like Kirk was supposed to be this rough and tumble captain. I don't think we were supposed to have thought that what he did with Khan at the end was anything but a sort of a mercy and indicating that human connection to even a dictator type person and desire to see, could this, to see that drive for greatness. Well, can you really pull this off? But was Kirk negligent? Should the Enterprise have scanned more of the system, made sure it was more stable? I thought it would be kind of an interesting bit of bitter irony if it was like, well, after some of our secondary systems were still repairing and rebooting after Khan's takeover, and so yeah, of course we scanned the system. We didn't do an internal scan of the planets because the systems weren't online yet, but we scanned them. Kind of absolving Kirk of any direct responsibility and actually implicating Khan in having effed up the computers enough that they didn't scan it well.
Is that what really happened, Dave, or is that just the comforting thing you want to tell yourself so you feel better about Kirk?
Oh, it absolutely is the thing. I want to feel better about Kirk.
Right.
Because that was the thematic of the show. The show wanted you to put him on a pedestal.
But it's just kind of an example of the the kind of behaviors and thinking patterns that I'm talking about.
We want our heroes to be purer. We don't want them to have made a mistake.
Well, Dr. Lyra is out here to try to disprove that.
Yeah.
I think she's out here I think Kirk knew.
But
it's funny. I actually love that little bit where she was early on. She is a person who is not comforted by Sulu's micrometeorite rain on the whole, and she's like, yeah, it's making it hard to concentrate, and
because it's not the real rain. She wants the truth. She doesn't want this is just true. the fake comforting thing. This isn't real.
But Tuvok busts out some Shakespeare on her and says, "Oh, sorry, the captain wants it." And was it "Heavy lies the head that wears the crown"? I'm going to butcher it slightly there, and she's pissed about it. There was a lot of they have those little juicy scenes throughout.
And I like that Paulo becoming aware of Ceti Alpha 6. Ursula tells him, go get Hassan's telescope, or this other augment, I guess, here, Hassan. He carried that telescope everywhere we went, so he's got to have it here. But yeah, I like her saying, but Paulo, ask before you take it. I know you stole from Marla McGivers. You're not going to steal from Hassan. But speaking of that, there's a moment when Marla is recording her historical log, and she's interrupted by Mado, who comes by to ask if she had any scans of the Ceti eel that she saw on Sylvana's leg. And this moment is interesting because when Mado goes to Marla's cargo pod that she's living in, she's like, "Oh, I notice you have this wind chime decoration at the door." It's like, oh, Marla has a security system now to hear people are coming in. But I mean, maybe is that because she noticed Paulo stole something? Oh, someone took this coil out of my cargo pod, so I better have a security system. But it just kind of shows that oh, she's getting really nervous and uncomfortable here without Khan to protect her for 2 days.
What's funny? Go ahead, Taylor.
I think she would have put that up after her and Khan fought, because remember he barged into the pod while she was trying to communicate, or he's a communicator. But I was thinking that would probably go up as soon as she wasn't on good terms with Khan.
Right. She kind of she knows she's on the outs, and she specifically mentions in one of her logs or something. She said, doesn't she say something I shudder to think what Ivan will do if Khan doesn't return or something like that? Am I remembering that right?
Remembering what?
Marla says something, maybe in a log, I shudder to think what Ivan will do if Khan doesn't return.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like she said something like that.
Yeah,
but you know what's funny? She had said in one of her opening logs, that among the few people who will talk to her are the younger augments. And Paulo is one of them, right? He was the one who had the fight with...
with Joachim.
And yet, if she put up those chimes because she saw those that something had been swiped, it was one of those very young ones that put the not really paranoia, but a justified fear into her. She's in a bad spot. There was actually one thing where I wasn't 100% sure of with the voices. I was like, oh, am I listening to Marla here, or is this Ursula? There's a bit where I think it's Ursula, where Ivan grabs her and she's like, take your hand off me, or, I'll, have Khan take it off for
no,
you.
that was Marla. That was McGivers.
Was it Marla?
Yeah.
Because I listened to it once, and I think that was my interpretation the first time. But then I think when I listened to it again, I thought it was Ursula talking with Ivan, and like that it had that kind of distinct voice she has. She has a kind of little bit of an accent. I forget what kind of accent it is, but it's noteworthy. But yeah, Jill is saying in the audience, Marla too, and I think that's what it probably was. That's what I heard too initially. But I want to go back and listen again. I wondered, the reason I asked, and the dynamic I thought would be interesting is that if Ivan and Ursula are also at odds, because Ursula did say like he is not a leader. She clearly doesn't think. Whatever else she thinks about him, it's not that he could lead. I wondered if she could, that if there was any possibility of her ending up an unexpected ally of Marla in the problems with Ivan.
Yeah. Or is there going to be like augment civil war at some point? Where is like the part of the reason why their numbers dwindle is that they end up killing a lot of their own. Like we know Ivan's already murked one other fellow augment, so.
Yeah, and if Ursula is like thinking that maybe Ivan killed Hugo, like maybe she has like an idea of that, and she's like the doctor and trying to keep people alive and trying to increase the population. Like he's actively going against what her goals are. So maybe that's like another tension there between them.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. We've got episodes enough to explore stuff like that.
Let's move on to Khan and Richter returning to camp. Right before they arrive, the two of the teenagers, Erica and Sylvana, are talking. Erica's trying to comfort Sylvana. Her boyfriend Richter is missing. They're like going through his art book, I guess. They're looking at his drawings. Erica's showing her like, oh look, like he was like studying you like all night trying to draw you here. That could be like kind of creepy if it's not someone you want drawing you. If it's someone that you do want drawing you like that and studying all the details of your face, then it can be kind of a sweet thing. But yeah, Khan shows up with Richter. Ran for 2 days with this teenager on his back. Yeah, this is when you get like that tension between Ivan and Marla. I think like they're some of the stuff that they're talking about in Medbay, and Khan explaining like his journey back, but he was saying, as a leader, I didn't see any other choice. Like I had to run for 2 days to get this boy back. I couldn't leave. Y'all are clearly going to implode without me. I had to get back here, and I couldn't let the planet take another one of my kids, so I had to bring him back.
Yeah, I think Marla says something like, Khan says, like, my life is not my own, it belongs to them. And Marla says, I thought it was the other way around, right? Aren't these guys your followers? And he says, for a king, perhaps. And then calling back the story of Scheherazade, He says, even a sultan, he's like, but not for a leader. And so it's interesting, he's... what I think he does several times in this, he kind of romanticizes a little bit of what he's doing, his own martyrdom and stuff like that, because it drives him. And I don't know that he is the true leader that, he thought he was, but he does, he can rally himself. And when he's talking to the planet, which he does two times, I think, sort of in the beginning of this, and then sort of bookending it definitely at the end, almost like he swears an oath. And I was thinking that's interesting because it tells us two things about Khan. One, he's got such an ego that it's kind of like the planet can't just be like, oh wow, it's just a naturally dangerous place. It just evolved and grew that way. He's like, no, it's an affront to me personally, and it kind of like he sort of makes it his story. And that's very egotistical. But in doing that, that is also what drives him. So I notice him giving himself these incentives. He's like, I will fight you to the end, planet. And I'm like, it's going to work. He will, like, or that is to say, he'll stay alive. His bitterness will fuel him. And he kind of knows what he needs to do to motivate himself. And sometimes that is crazy ego stuff.
You know what I thought was interesting is that Khan, when he found Richter, gave up on his avenge plan with the boar for Joaquin.
Oh yeah, I forgot all about that boar.
Completely abandoned. He found Richter instead and was like, must take care of child. And like, I think that goes towards like your sympathy. You know, the stuff you're talking about, like him being very sympathetic in this, and you know, very involved with like the kids' well-being. And I think that was actually really interesting for him to completely give up on that, because we know that this guy is obsessed with revenge and like getting even, and like especially like him being so angry at the planet all the time. So you know, like that's I don't know.
Yeah, he's famously wrathful.
Right. I think it's weird that he just forgot. Like it just went away.
That is a very good point. Maybe he got enough done with that snake.
He learned how to prioritize.
I think it does show that at this point the vengeance hasn't taken over wholly, right? He wanted to do it, but when protection came into play, he went with protection. Later on, when he's vengeful for Kirk, he will become more of a dangerous risk taker. He will put his handful of survivors, their lives on the line, because the revenge is the key thing for him. So that's, I guess, his downfall, is that he loses that ability to kind of be about protecting them.
And I really like one of the moments that really humanizes Khan in the story, but it's when I guess like he like goes out to the beach to wash up. He's like out in the water or something. He's like on the beach there, like you hear like the waves, you hear him and Marla talk to each other, and she's talking about how, like, she's never learned to swim. He's like, oh, I'll teach you. But you know, he's gone without sleep for 2 days. And he's, you know, it sounds like he's just about to like collapse on the beach, but like he doesn't want to be alone. It's that very like you know, like common thing is like he just wanted someone to cuddle with. He just wanted someone to like snuggle. And he even tells her like, I have no ulterior motives. Like he's like, I'm not doing this to have sex with you. And like I don't know, like maybe they do, maybe they don't, but like they definitely have like this like sweet moment of just like this very like genuine, just like human moment of like you know, and him like being that vulnerable in front of us, for him to be like I need you, like I need this other person, just like just be here with me. That was kind of a big deal for him. And you know, I thought that, that's a very kind of like, you know, like touching relatable moment for this tyrannical madman.
I agree completely. It's sort of a sweet scene, and what was I going to say? I don't know that I have anything to add anything other than it's one of those scenes, I guess, though, that like I found both like incredibly well written, well voiced, and all that. But you know, there was a part of me that's like, I don't want to feel sympathy for this guy. It's terrible.
Yeah, I get that. That was, you know, one of the things that really impressed me this year with the Superman movie that James Gunn did. Is a great film. I'm still a little reluctant to be like, oh, it's like my favorite comic book superhero movie ever. But I feel like I got to wait for it to be like a year or two old before I can say that. But I think that's probably going to be my stance going forward. But one of the things that really impressed me in that movie, that I really appreciated it, is that they show the villain of that story, Lex Luthor, as this terrible, this very modern, topical billionaire jerk. And they, at no point in that movie, make him look like a cool guy you want to emulate or be like. You know, it's never like, oh yeah, like Lex is so cool. And he's been depicted like that in you know, occasionally in comics, animation, and stuff before. And I really appreciated that stance. And so yeah, I definitely get the criticism of like, oh, maybe we shouldn't make Khan too likable. But they did a couple times in the first 2 episodes kind of remind us of his more ugly sides, I think. So it's balanced enough right now that I'm not too worried about it. But I think that is a legitimate concern Dave.
Yeah, and it's also, well, I'll say this as, kind of devil's advocate against myself. They did, in Space Seed itself, we've talked about this. They mentioned his sort of benevolent dictatorship that, uh, when you have the absolute power that Khan presumably had over a quarter of the Earth, I think they say. He could have been a cruel tyrant with executions on every city street and stuff like that. But it sounds like he was kind of at least a little bit like the fantasy we sometimes have of a dictator. Doctor Doom in Marvel Comics is also one of these people, kind of like him. The idea that he genuinely does love the people of his nation and is motivated by that, and is like, yes, a broken kind of person, but that there is some part of him that's noble and honorable. And I think that's what Space Seed was keenly interested in, is like the way we romanticize these, and would want that there to be some truth into that, and we hope for there to be some truth into that. Maybe it's because it makes us understand our world a little bit better, or think, oh yes, people might do bad things, but kind of for good reasons, or with some empathy in there. But anyway, yeah, I think they're still continuing to walk a reasonable line in it, but kind of a little, I'm cautious about some of that.
That was very much a theme in Space Seed. There's that moment when Spock is like shocked that Scotty and Kirk and the all the human boys are kind of talking about like, yeah, Khan, you read these history stories, you read about these battles, and it's just kind of hard not to root for the guy. Like they kind of talk about him like like Napoleon or something. It's like kind of the same, and I get that. Like if I understand, like, oh yeah, like when after Napoleon's first exile and he came back and they sent the army to stop him, and he opens his coat up and he says like behold, it's your beloved general, my men, I've come back to lead you, and they all like rally behind him. It's like, yeah, you kind of want to root for that guy to conquer Europe. It's kind of hard not to romanticize these figures sometimes, right? The way that these stories are told and retold. So that's going to be a fun thing to revisit. Taylor and I want to do a backtracking retrospective episode of the Tex-Trek podcast focusing on Space Seed after we're done with Star Trek Con and have all of this new context.
Good idea.
Context.
Yeah, context. Very good.
Right.
And then after that, we want to do just the Khan scenes of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, and go through like all of that and do like the Wrath of Khan revisited with this new context. I think that'll be really fun to reevaluate in the coming weeks. So that's something we're looking forward to doing.
Yeah, I like that idea.
So just to wrap up this story in episode 3, things get really bad in Medbay when Ursula and Mado go off to get something to eat, and they just leave Sylvana to watch over her boyfriend Richter in the hospital bed. And just in that brief time they were gone, Sylvana's watching over his unconscious body, saying things like, "Oh, I wish you and I could just, run away on a canoe together, and we'll just go out in the woods, just you and me." And that's when he wakes up and he still remembers the command from Khan to fight for your life. He keeps hearing the word fight, and it is so brutal to sit there and listen to. But it kind of starts off where she's just like, "No, Richter, what are you doing? That hurts. Stop." And then like she gets more and more scared, and then like you listen to this kid beat this other kid to death. It's very horrifying.
When I was first listening to it, during the sort of struggle and commotion and impact sounds that you hear after that, I thought that at some point that was like Ursula and Mado coming in there and like kind of breaking it up even, and they were going to be like, "Oh my God, he almost killed her," or something like that. And then I was like, there's this silence, and then you hear like the door open, and I was like, oh shit, they were not in there at all. They did not make it.
Yeah. I was, the first time I listened to it, and I was in denial immediately. I was like, she's fine. She's going to be fine. Like, he beat her up, but she's not dead. And then, like, later when Khan was like, yeah, he killed her. I was like, what? Like,
yeah, is that, including Richter's death, how many people have died in, like, basically 2 days or maybe it's been a few days. It's been
Hugo.
It's been like a month and a half.
Richter,
and then Richter and Ursula
and Sylvana.
And Sylvana.
Yeah. I mean, like that's pretty bad.
And he says in the Wrath of Khan that the Ceti Ills killed 20 of his people, I believe, including his beloved wife. But the Ceti Ills can also, I guess, kill you by like not being in your ear, but being in someone else's ear and making that person, go crazy and beat you up or something like that.
That's true.
So, but they don't even know it's the Ceti Ill yet that caused this. There's that conversation between Ursula and Khan where it seems like they're the only two who know. And I guess Mado probably walked in and saw the body too. But yeah, Ursula talking to Khan, like we're all gonna find out about this. This is scary. We need to figure out what exactly is going on here. But they don't know why Richter did this. All they know is there's an alien toxin in his body. There is some dried blood and dirt around his ear, whatever that means. But Ursula says, maybe exploratory brain surgery would get us some answers, but I can't do that with him alive, and so yeah, Khan is basically going to have to put Richter down so they can do an autopsy and get answers. And like that moment of Khan and Richter where like it is so painful for Khan to do this terrible thing.
Yeah, he says like I failed you or something like that. Because I know Richter makes a point of saying he forgives him.
Yeah, Richter asks Khan, like, he's very confused. He doesn't understand what's going on. And Richter asks Khan, like, did I fail you? And Khan says, no, it's I who failed you. And that's when Richter forgives him.
Man, yeah. Really, really nice writing on this. Yeah, I did not, at any point, like, it's so funny because, again, we know the ending of this. We know how the basics turn out. But I didn't think that Khan was going to have to, like, euthanize one of his own crew who had beaten someone to death so that they could autopsy the person and maybe figure out what's going on. And what's going to happen when they autopsy him and do find out about the Ceti Eels? Are they going to, like, try and catch one? Like, to study it? What is their next step?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I'm really eager to see what happens next in episode 4 because there's not like an obvious plot. At least if there is, I'm too dense to see it. But Taylor, what do you think about this ending?
I thought it was actually more brutal. Having Khan like physically, I feel like I heard like break his neck or strangle him.
Yeah.
When Ursula offered like, she said we can euthanize him like with no pain, and I'm like, why would he like choose like to make it this painful?
Because it's got to be by his own hand. He can't. He's not going to order Ursula to.
He can't inject him. Like, he could be like, hey, Ursula, give me the syringe. I'll do it. You know what I mean?
That's not how Khan kills people. He's more...
I will say, I think it was savage. Basically instantaneous with Khan.
Yeah.
And I think, but he wanted to have that connection, in its weird way. It was also like he was embracing Richter. Like, I imagine he may well have been, like, holding him close and then just, cracked his neck.
Yeah.
But he there was a part of him that wanted some sort of absolution, or like I said, he wanted the bitterness of the moment because he knew it would drive him. He knew it would make him give him the energy to fight the planet.
Yeah.
I know.
He's just adding fuel to his own fire.
I think so on some level.
And wouldn't it be awful / ironic if the way that he broke his neck, Ursula can't do the exploratory brain surgery that she needed to, like, what if it, like, gets out? Like, what if the Ceti Eel is like, oh, okay, this thing...
Oh, it may actually,
broken,
when he dies...
Oh, yeah, it could, like, fall out. Like, remember how it kind of fell out of Chekhov's ear when Chekhov was unconscious?
Yeah, they were discussing that in the comments and, like, asking, if there's a particular reason why it came out and, maybe he was resisting it and, whatever. But yeah, we'll find out, I guess, on Monday. Yeah. It is, I'm looking forward to Mondays at this point. I know, a new episode. I go out for a walk in the increasingly fall-like air at dusk. I listen to the episode and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's
Dave.
Yeah,
pretty dope.
As our environment is getting cooler, Ceti Alpha V is getting hotter.
Yeah. Yeah. This is true. And by the way, Khan he does say some some pretty dope, like from Hell's Heart, I stab at thee kind of stuff in this. When he's calling out Ceti Alpha at the end, he says, I misjudged you, Ceti Alpha. He's like, you're. What does he say there?
I got it right here. I can read the whole thing, but
hit me.
I'll give you the fatherly rendition.
Yeah.
Khan says, "Hear me, Ceti Alpha V. You have misjudged me. I see now that your beauty hides your true form, a monstrous visage, a devourer of souls. But I do not fear this form. These torments you have sent, these pitiful games are meant to force us to our knees. But I know too well that to give you an inch of satisfaction is to damn us all. I will mourn these losses. I will bury my dead. And then I will destroy every monster that hides in your darkness. I will burn this world to the ground and dance in its ashes before I bend to your will. I am Khan!"
All right.
Amazing.
For our listeners, taking one earbud out right now. That was a very dramatic, father. I like that. It's when you read words like that, it makes you want to.
It does. I'm fired up. I'm pumped.
Yeah, like
I'm ready to go fight some boars.
That's why.
Bring them on.
See, what happened is he let one boar go, and now he's like, I will kill every boar, every eel, every dactyl on this planet. And then they're going to be like, Khan, we don't have anything else to eat. And he's like, well, I didn't think that far.
Yeah. I also feel like, I don't know for sure, but I have a feeling that something Khan is going to do is what speeds up Ceti Alpha 6, like, exploding. Like,
yeah, I kind of wondered about that, too.
Planets kind of, like, play off each other, like, if it's gravity or if it's, like, environmental or something. But, like, even if Ursula was feeling like, oh, yeah, that'll be, like, millions of years before it explodes. And then, like, we know it is way sooner than that. And I don't know, Khan's, like, talking about all this destruction of this planet and, like, wanting to take out, like, literally destroy this planet, which he ends up doing. It ends up, becoming, like, famine, So I don't know. I just feel like how much of his actions are literally just, like, his own consequences later, and then he's like still blaming the planet.
Yeah, I think that you may be onto something. I feel like they brought up. It's weird to have a line where Ursula makes the reasonable point that it's extremely unlikely that they would be around and happen to be there on the planet when Ceti Alpha 6 blows up. So I wonder, is he going to be like, well, we're going to, like, do something with the geothermal core of Ceti Alpha V. And it's like, oh, well, we thought that we could, harness its power and do this, but we inadvertently, it disrupted the magnetic fields of the other one, in Khan's ego or whatever. And yeah, I feel like it's a possibility anyway.
Yeah, if he brings it all down on himself, and then in his arrogance, he's unable to see that, and so he just, instead of making Ceti Alpha V as Moby Dick, he just moves it back to Kirk, and he's like, this is all, you know who's to be blamed for all this? It's all because of Captain Kirk.
A lot of narcissists hide, extreme self-loathing, and they redirect it everywhere else. So, that would psychologically be a reasonably sound take on it, I think.
Yeah, I love this. This terrible person is so fun to explore.
It is. Khan loves the classics, and this has Shakespearean tragedy or Greek tragedy all over it, and there's a reason why we go back to those things all these millennia later or hundreds of years later. It's like we're drawn to tragedy, and I think this is a pretty good one.
Well, Taylor, any other thoughts on this episode?
No, I'm just ready for more, though.
Well, I think that'll do it for our deep dive discussion. Typically, at the end of the show here, I like to talk about the Gorn eggs, the Easter eggs, in jokes, and continuity connections in an episode of Star Trek that we think are worth mentioning and pointing out here at the end. There's not really a ton in this that, is like, oh, well, they talk about Ceti Alpha 6. We know from Wrath of Khan that blows up, and I guess, following strange commands, because you have a Ceti ill in your ear, like we saw Tyrell and Chekhov doing that in Wrath of Khan. But other than that, not much else to point out here. But everyone, y'all just heard us talk about this episode for over an hour. You know how Dave, Taylor, and I feel about Do Your Worst. Please comment and let us know your thoughts. You can comment on YouTube, on Spotify, on the post we're doing on social media platforms, or in the Tex-Trek Discord server, or on the Tex-Trek Facebook page. Just follow me anywhere at Tex-Trek, and you can reply there and chime in. I do have some comments we got on last week's podcast show. We were discussing the first 2 episodes of Star Trek Con, and I see Trek fan Wanda on YouTube said, really enjoyed these first 2 episodes of this audio drama. Great discussion also on Tex-Trek. Thank you, Wanda. But here's the one from Ferdinand that I wanted to share. He says, note that this is not the first time that an audio episode has been part of canon. There was also the No Man's Land episode of Picard featuring Raffi and Seven. What he's talking about is there was a Jerry Ryan and Michelle Hurd starring audio drama called No Man's Land. I think it's like an hour and a half long, but it was like a Star Trek Picard tie-in. It's set in between seasons 1 and season 2 of Star Trek Picard. So if you want to have Raffi and Seven together, having an adventure together, doing like Fenris Ranger type things. But they actually do get to be like girlfriends in a relationship, which the show was never interested in show. We only saw them like right after they break up, and they get back together, and then like next season they're broke up again. So if you want that, go listen to No Man's Land. But he's pointing out like that's included in the canon, and that was considered like a novel or like a beta canon type thing for people that are sticklers for that. But
I had forgotten about that though. I'm glad it was pointed out. I might go back and check that out. I mean, it'd be hard to imagine it can match the overall production quality here, but I liked them as a duo.
Yeah,
and it reminds me, by the way, that David Mack, wrote the novel about Seven and joining the Fenris Rangers. And I don't know if he seems to be comfortable writing queer relationships, and it made me wonder: are Ursula and oh my gosh, Mado. Like was that kind of one of his contributions? I feel like there's lots of things where I kind of feel like, oh, this feels like a novelist kind of thing in there, and I can't know for sure, but yeah, it's one of those. It's just a quality. I kind of one of the many things I like about it.
And I appreciate actually getting to hear a queer relationship in Star Trek Con, since I'm not able to see one on screen in Star Trek with as heteronormative as Strange New Worlds has become in its last 2 seasons. I'm a little annoyed by that, and it's like, oh, if I'm like the old straight white guy, and I'm like, this is weird. Why are you like hiding the gay people? I just imagine like the queer community is I'm sure they're well aware of it too. If I'm noticing it, I know they're noticing it. So I'm
needs
disappointed.
To always be pushing forward on that, and it is not doing it enough.
Especially now when there's been a backlash to progressive storyteller, just like progressive culture even.
Right. If you don't push back now when it's hard, that's
it didn't matter when you cared about that stuff when it was easy to care about it.
Yeah.
Correct.
I'll get off my soapbox. I know we need to wrap things up, but thanks everyone who came in and tuned in live. I know it was an unusual time, but glad y'all could be here. I noticed like we did pretty good on YouTube last week, and I think it's because a lot of the big platforms that make Star Trek content online aren't talking about this audio drama. They're like, why would we talk about this? We people only care about like shows and movies. So, but it helps us when that happens. It kind of helps us. So, the Star Trek prodigy effect. So,
yeah, love talking about prodigy.
But we'll be at our usual time next week, so 7 p.m. Central, but we'll discuss episode 4 next week. It'll be out on podcast platforms Monday. As soon as I'm done editing this Sunday night, I'll be listening to it. So looking forward to chatting about that. And y'all comment and let us know what you think about episode 3. We might share that in the subspace transmissions next week. But until then, as always, live long and prosper, y'all. Oh, wait, I don't have my outro video. Sorry about that. Okay, here we go. Here it is now. Okay, live long and prosper, y'all. Bye.
Listen to the Tex-Trek podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or at tex-trek.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/tex-trek. And follow Fathery on Twitter at TXTrek. Please support us by liking our videos and subscribing to our channel on YouTube. Thank you and take care.